Hi, this is John Linneball from John Linneball Tutoring, and this is how to study for the SAT and ACT, the second SAT done in real time. And you can reach me at john@johnlinneball.com. My website is johnlinneball.com, and my phone number is 415-623-4251. That's a cell where you can call or text, and I also have 415-986-7355 as a landline. So the things that you're going to want to do on the SAT essay are analyze the source for ethos, pathos, and logos, the source, of course, being the essay that you'll have to read as a prompt. So ethos is an appeal to ethics, facts, character, or authority. The word ethics derives from this Greek word ethos, which means character. Pathos is an appeal to emotion. You can think pathetic. Doesn't have to be sad like pathetic would imply, but just any emotion is going to be pathos. Logos is logic, rationality, deductive, or inductive logic. Don't worry if you haven't seen these terms. I wasn't taught them in high school. You can learn them now. Even if you have a panic attack and you can't recall these words on the test, just use the words the SAT people give you, such as logical arguments, powerful word choice, etc. Your job on the SAT essay is to analyze, not argue. So no matter what the essay/article/editorial is about, you'll always be asked to analyze the way the author uses ethos, pathos, and logos to make his or her point. Do not discuss your personal feelings on the matter discussed in the essay. They didn't ask you to respond to the argument, just to analyze it. However, if you do see an obvious logical fallacy, sketchy factual support, or obvious attempts to gloss over important counterarguments with dismissive or distracting language, or simply by ignoring them, you can and should mention it along with the things the author does well. You can be a little passive-aggressive if you want, say something like, the author skillfully argues around an important counterargument that many readers might miss. The instructions do not change. Memorize them now. Okay, the way the SAT works is if they make any change, as in when they came out with a new SAT in 2016, they let people know about 4 years in advance. So they're going to do the same thing if they change the instructions for the essay or what kind of essay assignment they're giving you. They would have to let you know far in advance. They won't. It's not going to change before you take the SAT. I'm assuming that you're planning on taking it soon if you're watching this video. If you're not, fine, I apologize. Just pay attention. So, as you read the passage below, consider how Jimmy Carter uses evidence such as facts or examples to support claims, reasoning to develop ideas and to connect claims and evidence, and stylistic or persuasive elements such as word choice or appeals to emotion to add power to the ideas expressed. And as I said, I got this from the first official SAT practice test, which you can download online at https://collegereadiness.collegeboard.org/SAT/practice/full-length practice tests. These are free. These are also the same tests that are in the official practice guides that you can buy. So I would recommend not buying the practice guides, just downloading those and buying some other SAT practice book. Because the College Board, other than the practice tests, their thing isn't really that good. So, here are the instructions from the College Board at the end of the essay. You can, it tells you, you can write an essay in which you explain how Jimmy Carter builds an argument to persuade his audience that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. So obviously that's going to vary from essay to essay. The author will obviously be different. It's not going to be Jimmy Carter for each one. And the issue will not always be that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. So in your essay, analyze how Carter uses one or more of the features listed in the box above, or features of your own choice, to strengthen the logic and persuasiveness of his argument. Be sure that your analysis focuses on the relevant features of the passage, or most relevant features of the passage. So your essay should not explain whether you agree with Carter's claims, but rather explain how Carter builds an argument to persuade his audience. Notice that the instructions say exactly what I told you they would, and if you don't believe me, you can come and look at this. Here's the little box with the instructions at the end, and here are the beginning instructions, and this is from the SAT practice essay number 1. So there. Anyway, this is practice essay number 7, which I'll do. I swear I have not gone down to look and see what the essay is yet. So, Notice they tell you what the point of the essay is. In this case, that the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge should not be developed for industry. You don't have to find it yourself, and you don't even have to rephrase it. You can mention different elements than the ones listed, but you don't have to. Unless they immediately spring to mind, don't bother to search for them. Just be a sheep and use the ones the College Board has listed. Anyway, moving on to the next page here. All right, let's get started. I'm going to open the essay from practice test number 7, which I haven't seen before, as far as I recall. I'm going to do everything within the 50 minutes, and unlike you, unless you have a special accommodation, I will be doing this on my computer, obviously the one I'm using to record this video, but I couldn't do it this well if I actually wrote it. My handwriting is pretty bad, for one thing. So I plan to do this one by breaking the essay analysis down into Ethos, Pathos, and Logos sections rather than analyzing each paragraph of the essay individually for each of those elements as I did in my first SAT done in real-time video. The essay I do will end up on my blog, on my website at www.johnlenaball.com. Just click on the tab that says blog and you'll see it, and it will probably also be on my LinkedIn thing. All right. And that was the hope this helps, which I'll show to you again after we're actually done. All right, my computer says it is 11:39 p.m. and let's get started. Okay, so we'll wait till 11:40 to actually look at the thing. I'm gonna drink some Diet Pepsi here. All right. All right, so you can get this. You can find out information on scoring your essay at essay. Okay, it's 11:40. Let's go. Notice that the instructions are exactly the same. How Zadie Smith uses evidence such as facts or examples to support claims. And reasoning to develop ideas and connect claims and evidence, stylistic or persuasive evidence such as word choice or appeals to emotion to add power to the ideas expressed. So I'm going to increase the size of this a little bit because I want to be able to read it, and I'm sure you would like to read it as I'm doing this. Okay, so Zadie Smith, writer Zadie Smith, wrote the following piece in response to news that several local libraries in the Greater London area, including Kensal Rise and Wilson and Green libraries, would be closed down. Okay, so obviously they want us to say libraries are really important. Let's go down. Write an essay in which you explain how Zadie Smith builds an argument to persuade her audience that public libraries are important and should remain open. In your essay, analyze how Smith uses more of them. Okay, so this is exactly the same as what I was just talking about, but we need to obviously adjust it to Zadie Smith. Don't put Jimmy Carter. All right, so let's go on with this. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is take some notes. So we're going to go Ethos, Pathos, Logos. And so the next thing we can do is we can open another new, or do another new document here. And so this is going to be kind of the same generic introduction you could always do. So in the Now let's see, what is this? Okay. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. In the persuasive essay, oops. The Northwest London Blues. Writer Zadie Smith. All right. Okay. We're going to copy this. Again, I can do this and you can't, so nah. But anyway, writer Zadie Smith uses ethos, facts, and authoritative. Okay, well, let's say commonly accepted ideas. Pathos appeals to emotion. And logos, logical argument, to support her point that public libraries are important and should remain open. Okay, so when I copy from Adobe Acrobat, it takes these spaces out, so let's put these spaces back in. Are important and should remain open. Oops. All right, so let's zoom this a little bit so we can see it a little better. That's 200%, that should do. Okay, oops. All right. So normally when I do essays like this, if I'm actually writing them, I usually write the introduction at the end, and we'll probably edit this, but so let's go. Okay, so let's look for ethics here, or okay, ethos. All right, so let's go back to the actual essay here. Okay, so what kind of problem is the library? It's not a problem at all, only a kind of obsolescence. Technocrats, okay, physical reality. Plurality. Okay. So at the extreme pole is the technocrat's total faith with every book in the world online. What need could there be for physical reality? This kind of argument thinks the library is a function rather than a plurality of individual spaces, but each library is a different kind of problem, and the internet is no more a solution than their universal death knell. So every morning I struggle to find a seat in the packed university library, which I write this. In fact, despite the fact that every student here could be at home from the MacBook browsing Google Books, Kensal Rise is being closed not because it's unpopular, but because it's unprofitable. This is despite the fact that the friends of the Kensal Rise library are willing to run their library themselves. Meanwhile, it is not hard not to conclude that Willesden Green is being mutilated, not least because the members of the council see the opportunity for a sweet real estate deal. Okay. So one thing with Athos, all right. Libraries are seen as obsolete by technocrats who cite the fact that every book in the world can be accessed online. So physical libraries are obsolete. As well as expensive and unnecessary. Which I suppose folds into obsolete, since if you don't need them, then why have them? So let's zoom into this one as well so you can see it a little bit better. And we'll zoom it to 200%. All right. However, okay, libraries remain popular with the public, even though almost all students and other library patrons have computers with which they could access internet versions of the same books found at the library. Okay. And Reasons for closing the libraries. The government's reasons for closing the libraries. Namely, their obsolescence and expensiveness to run. Are belied by their popularity. By their popularity with the tax-paying public. Okay, the author also cites to a sweet real estate deal as the reason. One local government council to close a popular library, and also mentions that another library is scheduled to be closed despite friends of that library volunteering to staff it for free. Okay, so that's some of the ethos that we see there. Let's see if we can find something else. Okay. All libraries have a different character and setting. Some are primarily for children, some are for students, general public. Okay, with a cafe or a market out front. Just drinking a little soda there. Anyway, neglected libraries get neglected, and this cycle in time provides the excuse to close them. Well-run libraries are filled with people because what a good library offers cannot easily be found elsewhere, an indoor public space in which you don't have to buy anything in order to stay. Okay. In the modern state, there are very few sites where this is possible. It would seem the most obvious thing in the world is the reason the market is not an efficient solution to libraries because the market has no use for a library. Nor can the experience of a library life be recreated online. It's not just a matter of free books. A library is a different kind of social reality of a three-dimensional kind, by which its very existence teaches a system of values beyond the fiscal. I don't think the argument in favor of libraries, especially ideological or ethical, I would even agree with those who say it's not especially logical. For most people, I think for most people it's emotion, not logos or ethos, but pathos. Here we go. This is not a denigration. Emotional has a place in public policy. We're humans, not robots. The people protesting the closing of Kensal Rise Library love that library. They're open to any solution on the right or the left. If it meant keeping their library open, okay. So, social goods. There we get money is tight. We understand there's a hierarchy of needs. We understand library is not hospital beds and classroom size, but there's still a significant amount. The only thing left on the street doesn't want you, your soul, or your wallet. Okay. So, the losses of private companies are re-socialized when already struggling communities. Yeah, the very least we can do is listen to people when they try to tell us where in the hierarchy of the companies access. Okay. But I never use the damn thing, says Mr. Not My Taxes under the line. Sir, I believe you. However, British libraries received over 300 million visits last year, and this despite the common neglect of the various councils that oversee them. In northwest London, people are even willing to form human chains in front of them. People have taken to writing long pieces of newspapers to defend them. Just saying the same thing over again. Defend our libraries. We like libraries. Can we keep our libraries? We need to talk about libraries. Pleading like children. Is that really where we are? Okay, so we have an awful lot of ethos here. Notice there's also British libraries received over 300 million visits last year. So let's see. At libraries. Popular with the taxpayers who use them. Okay. So let's take that and go like this. What's the author's name here? Zadie Smith. With the statistic. Okay, with a statistic. British libraries received almost 300 million visits last year. That's statistic. If true, certainly supports the idea. Unfortunately, Ms. Smith does not cite to a source for that statistic. I don't believe she does. So let's see here. Yeah, there's nothing there. So as I was talking about, if you see a logical hole or a problem with it, that's fine. That's an extremely minor problem. That seems realistic. Easily by any reader who wishes to research that matter. Or at the library. Ha 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 ha. Okay. So Pathos Logos. All right. So Pathos. All right. This is a major part of Zadie Smith's argument. She details how library supporters have offered to staff. Okay. The Kensal Rise Library have protested its closing to the point of forming human chains outside the library. And have written lengthy editorials in the newspapers asking for the libraries, to be preserved. And we can see here okay, Northwest London. Okay, so I don't know whether it's Kensal Rise. It's outside. Libraries. In Northwest London. Okay. She details how Kensal Rise Library, mostly to the effect Alright, so we'll copy that. So Smith describes these editorials, describes the authors of these. And when you take a quote and you change something like a letter, you can just put that in brackets, or if you need to put some clarifying words, things like that. So again, this is copying from Adobe, so I have to put in these spaces. Can we keep our libraries? Oops. Can we keep our libraries? We need to talk about our libraries. Okay, we need to talk about libraries. All right. All of this is very emotional and makes the reader much more sympathetic to the cause of leaving libraries open. Now, another part of this is let's put this at the end here. You can do all this on your scrap paper. I'm doing this on this thing. Smith also argues that libraries are some of the very few public spaces left where people can congregate without having to pay money to be in the space, as in the case of a coffee shop where patrons are expected to buy coffee or leave. Okay. Explicitly mentioning Ethos, Pathos, and Logos, and I swear I have never seen this article before. Explicitly mentioning Ethos, Pathos, and Logos to explain that human beings are emotional creatures, and it is actually more logical to accept that human beings can be emotional and sentimental, even, and provide allowances for those facts. Rather than just with the most logical and economically efficient solutions. She points out that the best result for businesses in a capitalist society is often at odds with public emotional needs, such as libraries. Okay. Which is why the sweet real estate deal mentioned earlier is not best for society's needs, even if it would help balance the local council government's budget. Okay, so this is Pathos. In a capitalist society. Alright. So, let's start moving some of these things over here. Let's start with Pathos. essay is at the first, the most notable. I don't like method, let's say writing technique. Put this here. Okay, we'll pretend that we wrote this. We're going to take this out. And then, let's see, is there anything else we want to put in here about Pathos? Okay. Okay, preserve. Okay. All right, we can put in here also if the okay. If the losses of private companies are to be socialized, if the losses of private companies, okay, so we're going to put spaces here, so the time that I have to spend on this will be approximately the time that it would take you to copy this by hand within already struggling communities when they try to tell us listen to people when they try to tell us where in the hierarchy of needs hierarchy of their needs, things like public space, access to culture, and preservation of the environment lie. But I never use the damn things. Says Mr. Not My Taxes. Sir, I believe you. Okay. Says Mr. Not My Taxes. Zadie Smith's use of humor at the end anti-library editorial writer, well, let's just say of a library opponent. doesn't use, underscores the silliness. And frivolity of the anti-library argument. It shows that mere financial concerns are no match for the strong and justified support libraries have in British society. Okay, Fine, yep. Okay. Concedes that spending on public health and the British National Health Service and lowering are also worthy uses of tax money. She points out that libraries are also important, even though they meet intangible needs rather than concrete ones. For example, more hospital beds. Okay, so we provided an example here. All right, and persuasive essay, North London Blues. All right, I've got about 13 minutes left here according to my computer clock. So let's go to the next thing we have here, which is, okay, Ethos. Smith also makes judicious use of ethos, facts, that is, beliefs, to support her argument in favor of the preservation of British public libraries. Okay. All right. At the beginning of her essay, she notes libraries are seen as obsolete by technocrats who cite the fact that, okay, so that's what we wrote before. And, however, she counters the technocrats that libraries, okay. Smith also notes are not more than overcome by their popularity. Also cites to a sweet real estate deal as one local government council, that's what they call local government in Great Britain, would like to close a popular library, and mentions that another library is scheduled to be closed. Okay, and there was also something in here about, okay, yeah, okay, in the second paragraph, all libraries have a different character and setting. Some are primarily, okay. So here we go. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to cut that out. All right. So Smith points out the non-obvious point that libraries are not failing because they are libraries. So first of all, what she does is she points out, okay, in the second paragraph, Smith notes all libraries, okay, be fairly obvious point. All libraries have a different character and setting. Some are primarily for children. Certainly you have university libraries, you have libraries that are aimed at children or students or for the general public, which is normally, I think, what most people think of when they think of a library, one that's for the general public, primarily full of books or microfilms. Out front. Digitized material. basement or mark it out front. This does emphasize that different libraries serve different populations, which patronize them for different purposes. Let's say which use them for different purposes. Ooh, we'll put utilize. Emphasize, okay, so which makes them, which implicitly makes them better than a general internet search for books. Books and research material, since it is organized for the needs of the population that generally uses that particular library, uses each particular library. Smith emphasizes that libraries are not failing because they are libraries. Okay, when you do a quote within a quote, you should always make it a single. Oops. Make that a single quotation, so cannot be easily found elsewhere. Indoor public space in which you do not have to buy anything in order to stay, which we already discussed before. All right, so this is the ethos. Okay, so all right, in time provides to the so we'll put that there. Smith's use of facts, e.g. Athos, helps support her point. Finally, Smith uses logos in a very simple persuasive form. She points out that government funds are intended to support taxpayer needs, since, after all, they came from taxpayers' taxes. Emotional needs are needs, so they should be supported. Even irrational needs, such as libraries. She also points out the logic behind neglected libraries. That libraries that are neglected fall into disuse, which leads to an excuse to close the libraries. And okay. Above, Smith uses Ethos, Pathos, and Logos to make a very solid argument in favor of libraries. Okay, so looks like I might have gone over that by a couple of seconds. 12:31 a.m. All right, so that's, but it looks like basically it got that done. Got most of it done within 50 minutes. So there's an idea of an essay. It's a very abbreviated conclusion. So we discussed Ethos, Pathos, and Logos. Hope this is useful to you. And all right, so I hope this helped. Please comment below if you have suggestions, criticism, or praise for me. You can please like or subscribe to my channels. This channel is mirrored just in case something happens to one of them. I can be hired for online tutoring or in-person tutoring in the San Francisco Bay Area or other places if I'm going to travel there. I go places, the East Coast. I've been to Australia. I'm going to London this year, so definitely we can meet if you want to. And thank you so much for watching this. Bye.